Strange Darling is out in theaters, new thriller starring Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Gallner. I've been advised to go check it out blindly, knowing as little as possible beforehand, and I can confirm this is the best way to view this rather good movie. And in the review, I will avoid spoilers as much as possible, giving you only the very basics and my impressions of it. So the film opens with a woman covered in blood running away in fear from a guy chasing her with a gun. Then the title screen comes on, Strange Darling, a thriller in 6 chapters, and then another title screen, chapter 3. So right off the bat, it got my interest. I was like, okay, we're going out of order, kind of like Pulp Fiction, let's see where you're going with it. And then the film continued from there, with essentially the entire story being told out of order, jumping between the earlier and later chapters so that it can withhold crucial information from the audience and reveal its plot points and plot twists in order to constantly sort of recontextualize previous scenes and make you reconsider what you've been thinking about them. In terms of tone, it's got a pulpy, exploitative 1970s vibe, which again brings me back to Tarantino and even more so, the actual cinema of the 1970s period, which was a huge influence on Tarantino's own movies. There is something about the grainy look, the color palette, the ultra-violence, and generally speaking, the vibe of the film that evokes that decade very strongly. There's also a deep sense of a heightened reality, which is to say that the world of the film doesn't feel grounded and realistic. It feels like it's slightly different than our own, like it is a movie, not a real world, but it is done rather well. In terms of the themes, it's a movie about societal stereotypes, about expectations and going against them and subverting them, about things on the surface not necessarily being true and how our assumptions can turn out to be completely false. I will say I enjoyed the twists, although I was able to predict the main one fairly early on. However, I will say that the thing that made me predict it was a shot in the first minutes of the film, which looks almost exactly like one of the closing shots of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which of course is another 1970s classic. And I have no way of knowing if it was intentional or not, if this homage, and therefore the foreshadowing, but I suspect it was, and if it was, I have, a lot of respect for the movie for doing it, because it was such a small thing, but it immediately made me think of Texas Chainsaw, and then immediately made me think, oh, so this is what's going on. Anyway though, it isn't the deepest movie ever when all things are said and done. It's primarily pulpy, atmospheric, violent entertainment, but both central performances are very good. Particularly Willa Fitzgerald is doing some amazing work in this film. The range she showcases and how captivating she is on screen really carries the film. And also her final scene has some incredible physical acting. I like the music as well. I believe most of it was written specifically for this film and as such fits and enhances the vibe even further. And as for some shortcomings, I'd say, some of the details of how the story unfolds don't really click entirely together once you learn everything. It isn't airtight, but as a counterpoint, I don't really think it was ever meant to be. It's kind of in line with the cinema period that it emulates, so I'm able to forgive that. I liked it. I think it's a solid movie.